Well, I guess there's only one thing left to say. Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order?
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Talking Smack, where we talk superheroes, movies, animation, comics, and movies, so much more. I lost my intro because I have some really bad heartburn, because coincidentally I had a good burger, but it's coming back at me. I am joined, as always, by my co-host Alex. Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm a little concerned that Ed sauce got to you. Are you okay? You've been working
Yeah,
on
the
the
sauce
formula.
is the problem. It's
Okay.
I think it's the chemically imbalanced Good Burger. But how are we doing, Alex?
Doing fantastic. I remembered not to order my drink with ice, so that there was no hands reaching in and scooping that clean. I made sure I got the orange soda treatment, so I got the song with it. I'm feeling fantastic. I'm sorry to hear you have heartburn, though.
It'll be okay. I might just have to mute myself a few extra times tonight. But I am doing pretty awesome as well, because not only did the Packers win on Thanksgiving, not
Woo!
only did I get some good deals on Steam for my Steam Deck, but
Woo!
we are joined by the man, the myth, the legend, one of the godfathers of our podcast, Brendan from the podcast UnChefed. Brendan, welcome back, and welcome to a non-Futurama episode.
I know it's quite a break for us, isn't it? And I want to remind you that through all of these quips about like sodas and good burgers and heartburn, that we are living in the best of all possible worlds, because it could have been Mondo. Could have been a Mondo burger.
It's true.
Nice.
The veneer of Mondo Burger was destroyed by Ed, and
we dodged a bullet. The hero,
Yeah.
every
Ed
generation
Dexter.
is born a hero, and whoa.
And we are here to talk Good Burger 2, because why the hell not? We got Legacy equaled with Good Burger. Brendan and I had a really great conversation with his co-host Matt back in January 2022.
I don't even want to think about that as being more than a year at this point.
It was this year. It was, what is time?
That's like a month ago. Huh.
Exactly. But it's a great episode, and I will definitely link it in the episode description, because that might be a more fun listen than this one. We'll see what happens. But first and foremost, we do need to do a fun listen with Ken and Aaron over at Sugar Coated Murder, and we'll be right back.
Hey, Ann Barner.
Hey, Karen Beatty.
We need a promo. You know, like where we talk about what we do on our podcast.
On our Sugar Coated Murder podcast? Like how we love to bake and talk about murder?
That's what we need to talk about.
There you go.
I think we've talked about it. Y'all find us on all your favorite listening apps.
Stay sweet.
And don't murder.
Because if you kill people,
we will talk about you.
Sorry, I remember we were all coming up with like promos and whatever. Did I just fuck that up? We were all coming up with promos or whatever. They nailed it like on the first go. Like all of us had to do like 2 or 3 takes when we were agreeing to promote each other's shows on our own shows, and they just had it like right off the get.
I love that promo because they warn you not to murder. We'll talk about you, but they're so sweet about it.
They're sweet, but they will talk about you. They are sweet, but they will.
That seems like it almost makes me want to go like life in prison, or they talk about me. I can't decide
it's
which
life
is
in
worse.
prison, and they talk about you.
Yeah, it's a
no.
double negative, really. Like,
Okay, thank you.
Speaking of the Sugar Coated Murder podcast, because I was listening to Justin Henson's 100th episode of the Movie Wire earlier today. Actually, I finally got around to listening to it, and it was a very sweet episode. Lots of great people commenting, and I felt bad that I didn't get to it. And then Justin pulled out the dagger, and Alex had submitted a very lovely congratulations on hitting 100 episodes. And then Justin just goes, oh, of course, Josh wasn't there. Oh, man, that one was like, Alex could have invited me to the promo. I could have made a little bit of time, maybe. But no, now Justin's on the shit list.
Well, see, I was listening to the 99th episode where he seemed to solicit things, and I was like, hey, listen, I don't know if you actually want something from me, but here you go. And then he puts it in there. All the way at the end, he has this wonderful little message about it. And then, the stinger is just right in your back, Josh.
Yeah, and it's really funny coming off of his turn on Between Two Pods, because he said some really wonderful things about both of us. And like, I've never heard anyone talk that nicely about me in terms of like my podcasting skill and my movie review skills or lack thereof. And I was like, oh, Justin, you're so sweet. And then, of course,
Then you
Josh
stab him
isn't
in the
here.
back.
Exactly.
Then you come at him like a villain.
The duality of man.
The duality of man, indeed. Man, I can't believe you would do that to Justin too. Like, he's such a nice guy.
I can't believe Justin would do that to me. Excuse you.
I'm just gonna like fan these flames as much as possible. Like
Just come
two
in
amazing,
and-
yeah. It's something about like two amazing people that I enjoy. Like I kind of like the rivalry, the healthy rivalry aspect. It's something that I kind of look for in a lot of my my various goings ons.
Yeah, I remember Decaying with the Boys and Casting Views had like a mini rivalry going where they would just talk shit to each other each week.
It was basically Dan was just, everybody had a rivalry with Dan.
It's true.
Because he had just the best sense of humor about everything.
It's true, and he still does. And yeah, I was actually just on an episode, which I think I was a week ahead of schedule. I don't know, but again, I was on an episode of Casting Views where we talked about favorite sports moments. So definitely check that out as well. But we are here to talk about Good Burger 2. We'll see what we get to with this. I think we're going to go full spoilers. And one of the things I got to say off the bat, Brendan, is we were going to have an UnChefed reunited episode where you and Matt were here with me and Alex, and we were going to talk Good Burger. And I think Matt might have made the right choice in ditching us.
Well, I mean, he didn't. So it's kind of funny. Matt's got a lot going on in his life right now. And I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to like air any laundry on Matt's behalf. He started a new company. That's always, a lot to take upon himself, like take upon yourself. And I told him that you wanted to do this Good Burger episode. And his immediate reaction was like, God damn it, Brendan. Like, I was like, come on, man. It's going to be fun. It was fun the first time. You're going to enjoy it this time. And it was one of those moments where it's like, does he actually have enough space to like chow down on a second helping of Good Burger? Because that was kind of what this movie was. It was like a second helping in like the truest form. Like they followed like all of the original structures, right? Like you got that from watching the movie. Am I alone on that take?
No. It's a reheated meal that is definitely not as good as the first time.
Yeah, it was. I felt like in a lot of ways you could almost see the exact playbook and then being like, wow, it worked so well the first time, which I think was just a complete misreading, because like there's so much nostalgia with Good Burger for people from our generation, but like I'm not sure that that's necessarily like it's almost like you're getting back in touch with how old you were at the time. And of course, all of us have developed in our personalities. We're not the kids that we were when it came out the first time around, but the show didn't grow up with us at all. So
No.
it's kind of difficult to understand, who this was for, because it didn't meet us at our level where we are in our life nowadays. But it's not really a thing that like the current generation of kids have access to, because like all that isn't a thing on show right now. Or on TV. It's not like a show that kids can watch and like kind of connect with.
Yeah,
So,
Paramount's whole library, as far as like Nickelodeon stuff that's not like Avatar: The Last Airbender, is pretty much there only for nostalgia's sake. Like it's there for our generation that grew up on Nickelodeon, and they're not doing anything with the properties now. They try to do it with Double Dare. The new Double Dare host or co-host was one of the computer analysts that worked for Megacorp. I forget her name, but other than that, like I have like three really big gripes with this movie. One of them is that it did not embrace the like bombastic nature of what made the first movie so much fun. And like it became a thing in the 90s of like almost animated live action nonsense. And they kind of did that when Dexter Keenan first shows up in Los Angeles and Ed hits him with the car and he like flips into the car during that whole sequence. Like, okay, we're kind of on board with what we did. Cause like one of the first things Matt mentioned in our episode way back when was what the opening sequence where Ed's rollerblading for a delivery and a group of guys play basketball with a baby. And it takes until someone slam dunks the baby that they realize they're playing with the baby.
Those are the spoilers spoilers for everybody who's listening to this who hasn't seen Good Burger 2, the movie yet. It never hits that level of high.
It never does.
There's no
there's
basketball
never a joke.
babies.
There's never a joke that even hits that level of funny.
See, I think that explains a large part of it, because one of my notes on it was, so they're stuck in a self-driving car and they realize they can turn the steering wheel and make it just go in a circle to stop crashing into things, right? And then like, oh my god, the battery's on full. And it cuts to them later and it's dark and it's still going and they've passed out. The obvious joke is the car should be about 15 feet down, having dug itself into a hole, because it's churning up all this dirt and stuff, and they show it. Instead, it really looks like they just stopped the car, got out, got back in, and said, okay, shoot again. Because there's no depression, there's nothing more fully more turned up. And that is, they didn't sell enough of the absurdity.
I was kind of amazed they didn't have like a dizzy sequence afterwards.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Keenan was like, I'm going to throw up. And then the other joke is that Ed is like, oh, cool, a spinny ride. Let's go on that. But I did like that joke, though. I did like that they fell asleep while still holding the wheel to the side.
Yeah,
I did get that. That one did get a chuckle out of me.
I feel like one of my favorite movie jokes, it was this movie Out Cold with Zach. It was like before Zach Galifianakis was big.
Yes.
And he would he had narcolepsy, so he'd pass out. And one of the jokes that they would play pranks on him when he passed out. And one of them was they put him in a car on this ice, like, because they're in the middle of this like ski resort and there's ice on the road, and they like get on either side and they start pushing the car in circles like he's in the steering wheel, and like he had passed out. So like everybody starts yelling as soon as the car starts spinning, and it's like a controlled spin with a bunch of friends, and he doesn't know, and he wakes up and he's like, oh my god, and starts yelling. I think that's a really great joke. I think that's the best it was ever done, but I saw flashbacks to that amazing joke in that scene. So I'm with you that I thought it was good. I thought that it was a good joke, but yeah, they could have leaned into the absurdity a little bit more, like Alex was saying.
Yeah, and another complaint I have is that I don't think there is a scene in this movie where there is not a cameo or a product placement.
Yep.
Whenever there's not a cameo, there's a product placement. Whenever there's not a product placement, there's a cameo.
I was happy to see Danny Tamborelli.
Yes.
I was like, holy shit, Danny Tamborelli. I haven't thought about him in a while. I hope he's doing well.
Yeah, see, my first few notes I was thinking of this movie was, he can still do the voice. Like, that was good. It was kind of like the Pee Wee Herman movie from a few years back. You could tell that the voice was gone a little bit from him. He still can't hit those high notes, but Kel still can. Just nail that gravelly, rattly voice. I thought, it was a good little intro to it. It was very cute. And then to Josh's point, my exact note is, motherfucking Pete Davidson. Why, dear fucking God, why is this asshole in everything?
The first person we see that's not Ed is Pete Davidson.
Yeah.
And that's another complaint I have about this, is that a lot of the cameos really feel like Keenan just pulled some cards or some favors from his SNL days. Is he back on SNL? I don't know.
Left. He's
I thought he was retiring after like 2 seasons ago.
No,
he's still on.
They made it work out so he could do his Keenan show and SNL.
Okay.
Yeah, it did feel this was definitely, there were so many SNL cameos that it felt like it was kind of in the SNL universe a little bit, like a Wayne's World, or what would be another big like Coneheads or whatever,
Yeah.
But none of them felt like they served any kind of purpose other than a cameo. Like what I was saying about how if there's not product placement, there's a cameo. If there's not a cameo, it's a product placement. Like, the entire movie felt like that bit from Wayne's World where they're like, I will bow down to no sponsor. And it's Pepsi, like, it's like, people only do things because they get paid, and that's just sad. It's giving me a headache. But like they just did it completely straight, where it's just like, yeah, Doritos gave us some money to do so we're gonna have this scene where we plan our heist and the twins are gonna be eating Doritos. Enjoy. Like, I just, there's so much of this movie that, and it's a money grab, like Brendan said, from our generation. It's just some nostalgia bait, but
I was gonna say that's going back in. There's like no it's hard to see who the audience is because it should be us because
Yeah.
it's from our generation, but it didn't grow with us. It doesn't anticipate us. It's just kind of like, we know you're gonna come in for a holiday movie. This is a little bit better than a made for TV like Hallmark movie, but it's kind of like playing around in that same sort of like sentimentality where it's like we know that you might drag your kids to it, you might not. Like there's going to be some revenue generated off of this. A lot of it's came from the product placement. And I will say this, as far as the cameo thing is concerned, it doesn't really make for a better movie, but it looked like that movie would have been a lot of fun to make from like the
Yes.
perspective of like an actor who was on the set, like actually making the movie. That did seem like something that would have been a blast. That was something me and my wife were commenting at the end of it. We're like, I bet these people had a lot of fun making this movie. They all knew it was kind of a shit show. Probably nobody gave as much of a like nobody's going for the like an Oscar performance with Good Burger 2.
No.
The expectations are really low. They're just chomping on free Doritos and having parties with their friends.
Yeah, if I'm going to compliment anything, I will compliment that the energy was there. I don't think anyone like didn't try. Like they were doing what they came to do, and that was make a Good Burger movie. And everyone did seem like they were having fun. And I do want to shout out Alex R. Hibbert as Ed 2. He did a really good Ed impression. I think there's
I
like
thought the movie
one or
should have
two
been based
moments-
on him.
Yeah, and but I got to go right back to it. Why is Ed not married to Linda Cardellini?
Thank you. Thank you. I when Carmen Electra popped out, I was like, oh, that's right. She was in the first movie. And I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird. And then, there's the kind of acknowledgement she's only hanging around because of the first movie and now she's a babysitter. I thought that Linda Cardellini was going to walk out. And instead it's someone random. And I'm like, oh.
See, but I could see where they decided not to do that because the wife is only there to punchline the joke that Ed is apparently Catholic and has 25 kids. and he's had 25 kids in the 5 years that he's not seen Dexter.
That was a little bit of a ball drop, I think. Like they could have fleshed out his backstory. Again, they could have grown the character a little bit, or they could have focused on like young Ed too. Like those are two completely viable directions, and they could have saved enough time to like build just a little bit on this if they had cut off like 5 seconds of that fart at the end. Like. If they just like shaved a little bit of the fart off, they could have done a little bit of character development for Ed and his family. I don't know if it was like not being able to get the actor, but yeah, like Ed's whole family situation was really just like, here's my family, all right, and then they go and like that's it. They're all named after like burger condiments, and everybody's like, oh, it's cute. I guess that's funny. Like I don't like they're all dressed like burger people. Like
I kept laughing at that because I was like, oh, Ed too, okay. And then it kept going and it's like tomato, cheese. But when they said, this is no mayo, I was like...
All right, you got a good point. This is no mayo is kind of like the absence, like the non-object. Like you're naming your kids objects and then you would name one a non-object, like the absence of an object. That is kind of funny. That I give it to him. That's a good point out.
Yeah, no, I thought that was funny. What it reminded me of the Ed 2 was Bill and Ted Face the Music. Which
I loved. I loved that.
Yeah,
movie.
which I loved, and
okay.
the two was it? I forget the children's names, but the two
Little Bill and Little Ted.
Yeah, that's right. They did keep the names. They didn't change it. They just said Ted was Theodora or something like that. Yeah. They nailed the personalities and the mannerisms of the prospective actors. And they mentioned that they probably wouldn't do another Bill and Ted movie. What they probably would do was a Bill and Ted movie. Mm-hmm. And I think that would actually have been far more interesting if they would have had Ed 2 as the main character.
Yes, exactly. It would have been awesome if there was like this meta Rashomon where like the adults are having some like secondary story in the background, but the whole thing was focused on Ed 2 trying to like actually work at Good Burger while like the adults are off on like some story that you're only getting like glimpses of. Like that, there would have been a really cool way to do that. And maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just in my head. I got weird tastes and weird thoughts that bounce around in my school, but that would have been awesome.
There's a world where something like that works. Cause like there's an episode of Community where if you pay attention to the background, Abed's having like his own little adventure. And by the end of it, he's like helping someone deliver a baby.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And they call that back in like a later episode too. I love that.
Yeah.
so good. Like, and you could play, I mean, again, you get back to this whole thing about like nobody cared. It wasn't an Oscar performance. Like, it was kind of a cash grab. You like, what better opportunity do you have to play around with like story structure? You know you're going to get a certain amount of revenue. You know you're going to have a little bit of fun with this. Like, why not like go kind of like all out with the creativity and do something like risky like that? Like, is there a reason you review a lot of movies, a lot more than I do? I'm like, burgers taste good for this reason, but you guys like actually know movies. Like, what would be the consequence of like Good Burger deciding like, screw it, let's go for this crazy like high concept script? You know, like, would that be
I
a
don't think
problem?
there's any real risk to it other than people start talking about it. I don't know what Paramount was doing with it. I don't know what the stipulations were towards the contract, but I don't disagree that there's a way you could make a good movie out of this instead of just doing The Force Awakens, but with Good Burger. And like they even do the thing that Alex hates where Dexter, who had his big character growth moment, like given he's a teenager, so like he's probably going to backslide a little bit as an adult, but you hope he learns from his lessons. But no, he's just a con man. He somehow he
Yep.
has his own business and he got funding from a bunch of people to make a flame proof
Mark
wax
Cuban,
coating.
no less. Like,
But
Jesus.
those are the kinds of the things that actually made me chuckle in the movie, because they have the fire department there just for safety, for show, and he's telling them, oh, you're going to be out of business, and one of the firefighters randomly goes, oh, no more fires, bummer. And that actually made me laugh. And then there's later on there's a DJ when the obvious evil lawyer draws them all in and tells them, oh, I'm shutting everything down, and the DJ goes, well, like, I'm not having any more fun, in guys.
Yeah, he just gets kind of sad. He's like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yes.
While
Yeah,
wearing that
those
like
are-
righteous hamburger and ketchup, like
Yeah.
whatever that outfit was that he was wearing was off the chain. Like, that's exactly what I'd want like a DJ who is DJing a Good Burger party to look like.
Yeah, there were so many little touches in it that I actually found funny and laughed at. Like I enjoyed that they mocked the celebrities who sang that Imagine song during the pandemic by having a cameo song of them. But they started out with Nicole Richie, and I was like, this is a weird pull, which leads me to think that, yeah, like you and Josh had said, Brendan, that this is just an SNL who can Keenan pull kind of movie, because we also have Gronk in there, I think, twice.
Yeah, he was the
Yeah,
one that
he's-
like
he's someone
Keenan was,
who
like,
just keeps-
cleaning his face and
Yeah. And it took me like 3 cuts to see that was Gronk. I'm like, is that Gronk? That's not Gronk. And then it like, why the fuck is Gronk here?
they're hedging their bets. Like they know this is going to be like the second the reviews hit, like they know that you have to a certain degree when you're like, let's just dust off the old script, which is exactly what happened. Like, you can follow it like big evil empire, blah blah blah. Like, it has the exact same like plot development points. It was just a dusted off script. They knew that this was going to be like an initial cash grab. Like, why not get as many big names as they can? And it really does show. Like, I think this is something that, if I had to guess, this is like Keenan kind of like going into production mode and trying to become somebody who can like actually show his ability to organize like a big event, because like I think that ultimately when we look at this, when we're trying to figure out like who is this movie for, it's difficult like when you think of it only as a movie, but when you think of it as an event, when you think about like the car and the Thanksgiving Day parade, like the Macy's Day Parade, when you think about like all the people that are being brought together, you start seeing it as like almost this form of like Hollywood politicization, where it's like you've got these people that can become like touch points in Hollywood that can actually bring a huge crowd together, and they're showing their ability to mobilize. And I think that this might be sort of like, well, what can you do like with this kind of event, Keenan? Maybe that's like what he's signaling. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something else from him in the future that was maybe moving a little bit more into like a Tyler Perry kind of, establishment. That would be interesting to me. That's kind of what I got out of it. But again, my business is food.
Okay, so Brennan, you I think you set off a light bulb here, because I could totally see the Keenan show runs on NBC. They had a whole thing on NBC. My family watches the Macy's Day Parade, the NBC production, because they have all the Broadway stuff, and they have the Rockettes doing the whole gate opening in front of the Macy's store for Santa. So I wonder if, like you're saying, this isn't just a big production to get Keenan's name a little bit bigger and like try to have people look him up on other things. Because everyone knows he's on SNL, everyone knows Keenan and Kel and all that, but do they know he has his own sitcom? Now people are going to be talking about it like, oh, hey, maybe he's got a sitcom. Maybe Kel will show up and do a cameo. Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that could be behind that, including NBC maybe co-financing this.
And I think everybody's aware that like Adam Sandler and all of his movies are just like, hey, here's me and my friends in Hawaii. Here's me and my friends in like this other place that we wanted to hang out in. And I think that that's more what I'm saying. Cause like people aren't going to be like, wow, Good Burger 2 was so good. I got to find out who made this. I'm going to look up. Like, I don't think that's like, I don't think anybody was like, man, this is really going to make a name for Kenan Thompson. But I do think that it would get like, you know, a lot of star power and a lot of people to be like, hey, I didn't get the biggest check, but I cashed a check and I had a fucking blast doing it.
Exactly.
You know, so it's like you're sort of like building those inroads with like Hollywood people. And you know, now Keenan's the kind of person who's like, hey, we had a good time, you want me to come in, like I can produce this, I got a lot of friends, like we're gonna do it my way, but like I'm gonna pull like a huge circle in with me, you know, and then we can start like sort of building this movie the way that I would like to build this movie. And we've got like all of these things that I bring with me. This is like my wife's father used to say that like the thing that made him a successful musician was like anybody could come in and play. He could play the bass better than, you know, a lot of his contemporaries, but anybody could play. What made him different was he walked in with the best equipment. You know, and when you look at like the utilitarianism of being in Hollywood, I think that's like sort of what has made Kenan so successful on SNL. I think it's the reason that he got his own show. I don't think that he has like star power per se. He's always been a sidekick ever since he was like little and like Heavyweights and Mighty Ducks. And, you know, even to today, like despite his obvious comedy genius, despite like his acting acumen and capabilities, I think that like one of the things that he demonstrates the best is this kind of like Hollywood utilitarianism where it's like he's coming to the gig with the best backing. Like he's coming to the gig with like all of these resources that you're just not going to get from another comedian. And that's like on top of the talent that he alone possesses. So, you know, I think that that's kind of an interesting way to look at this project. And again, if you just look at it as a movie, it's kind of crappy. But when you look at it as an event, it's like, okay, well, I can kind of see how this would solidify the ties between a lot of these cameos, these people that were, you know, invited to come in and again, probably cash a decent enough check, maybe not the best check of their lives, but a decent check, and had a blast doing it, you know?
Yeah, and what you're saying makes a lot of sense too, because Kenan, he's the straight man of the comedy duo. He's the guy that can really punctuate a joke. And like it takes a certain level of talent to be able to do that, but it also takes a certain level of talent to be the funny man too. But that's what he and Kel do so well together, is that Kel is the bombastic, over the top comedy guy, and Kenan plays it straight, and he's just like, that's not what real people do. What the hell is going on here? And he does it in a way that is relatable, but also different, and it stands out. So it makes a lot of sense with what you're saying, that Kenan, especially, like maybe he doesn't have a leading man potential, even with his own sitcom, but if he surrounds himself with the right people, including production and co-hosts and script writers, it could be a success for him. As far as I know, the Kenan show is going into its third season. So, I mean, who knows where that's all going to lead to, but.
And it's a known thing on SNL. Like they say, if they don't know how to finish a scene, they just put Kenan in it and shut the hell up and get out of his way. Like that's something, you know.
Yeah. So I mean, this very well could just be, you might have cracked the case wide open here, figuring out who is this for. It's for Kenan to showcase his ability to put shit together and be able to hold stuff together.
Yeah, to throw a party.
Yeah, and on the merits, as you said, as on the merits of being a movie, Good Burger 2 is absolutely nothing special. There's nothing in this that is probably going to stick in my brain beyond tonight. Like I will remember to the day I die, Abe Vigoda running into Good Burger after escaping the insane asylum, going, "I need a hot jacuzzi." But I could, if you asked me tomorrow morning, what was your favorite part of Good Burger 2? I'd be like, did I watch that yet?
Yeah, it's true. You know, there's a lot of good like dunkable opportunities on it though. Like after we were done, and I like a movie that I can get some solid dunks in on. I thought it was hilarious that, you know, they are, well, Keenan specifically is brought to this lawyer's house, or like whatever the corporation's called. I don't think they even hide it. They're just like big evil corporation, whatever.
Yeah, Megacorp or something like that.
Megacorp or something. Yeah. Like you said, I'll forget it tomorrow. This is purely for this podcast. But he goes to this dude's house, and it's obviously like this amazing house. He's like million, if not billionaire, with this house that he's got. And the whole plan is to buy a restaurant, like a single burger joint, and then shut it down so that they can start a completely different concept, like an all AI concept burger restaurant in other parts of the world. And then when that doesn't happen, they go broke. So like I'm talking to my wife and I'm like, well, what was their business beforehand that they were like, this one burger restaurant, if this doesn't work, we're ruined. You know, as somebody who's run restaurants, I'm like, they say in the restaurant industry, the best way to make $1 million in the restaurant is to start out with $1 billion. So like the idea of like this already like empirically successful company, we're like not even the number one, but the number two has like $1 billion home, fails to like on their opening night of a burger restaurant, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, they're like their business is screwed and they all go to hell. I don't know. It was just so easy to dunk on that, and dunk in a nice way, because like that's one of the things I think that Good Burger does offer is like this really clean line of like the bad guys lose, which you know ultimately there's like kind of a okay, well this is kind of fun, but like it's also sort of stupid because that's not how anything works ever, really.
It doesn't seem to know if it wants to be a straight parody or just kind of like a casual comedy, because one of the things they do is immediately sign a contract. It goes into effect, and then he says, "You can't do that." Well, you signed the contract. You didn't bother to read, which does make me which is funny in and of itself. But then you immediately pivot to let's kill them by putting them in our automated cars and have our automated cars with our branding and logo.
Thank you.
Start running over everybody and anything and side swiping things. And nobody goes to check to make sure they're dead. They just break into the place the next day through the front door with a mustache. After they have already been there the previous day talking to the same security guards, making demands from them.
I did like the way that they got into the control room and I like the fact that kid's name was just like, what was it, Mr. Johnson or Mr. Jensen or whatever?
Yeah, Mr. Jensen.
Mr. Jensen. He didn't have a first name. Everybody just called him Mr. Jensen, but he was like a 17-year-old kid. Like I kind of like that. And I liked his scheme to have like toxic materials and they just drop it and they used it to like that was kind of fun and funny. It's ridiculous, stupid, just like over the top, but there was like a little bit of enjoyability there, I think.
Speaking of Mr. Jensen, when Kel was pretending to be him and he's talking about his wife going into labor and delivery, and then like a 17-year-old kid walks in who still lives with his mom, I was like, this universe, I'm not sure he's actually not married with a wife who's pregnant.
But he's crushing on Keenan's niece.
I was about to say he's crushing on Keenan's niece though. Like,
but he still might be married.
He's a good guy. He
is a manager of a burger restaurant. Those people can be pretty sleazy. So like,
that's true.
He's cheating on his wife with like Keenan's niece apparently. With a kid on the way. That is, I like that take actually.
Oh no, we're doing the dark bullshit now, huh?
Oh, you know me. You brought me in.
You're one of those people that subscribes to the Angelica's having a dissociative moment, thinking about the babies. Right? They all represent different forms of anxiety and depression. Like Stu makes toys because Tommy died in labor, and there's this there's this really bad like dark Rugrats fan theory that makes no sense when you're like, but the show happened.
No, I don't subscribe to that. I actually like Rugrats right where they are. Rugrats are like, I subscribe to a lot of like, actually, like for instance, the movie I think was kind of trying to play around with this idea that like automation in like fast food restaurants is terrible. Like I don't know. It seemed like I did a little bit of prep work before watching, and it seemed like that was something that people were talking about. Is that something that you heard about? That it was like that was the message. The original one was obviously against like, chemical chemically enhancing burgers and like.
Yeah. I think that's part of where this one kind of failed is it didn't have a message really to say. Like there's the whole, coincidentally, given what we just went on strike through for the actors and writers unions, automation, AI, whatever is bad, and it's going to take away jobs, and there's no replacing human work ethic and the human experience in the workplace. But it didn't care to really say anything about the automation. It was more just about Ed and Dexter getting Good Burger back and like Dexter redeeming his character. I feel like that was missing. Like that was part of the heart of the movie that was missing is they missed the mark on the motivation of why this needed to be stopped. Not just that, they're going to
just wanted to keep his fast food job was like, I think that was basically it. Like everybody just wanted to keep their job at the burger joint.
Yeah, because when they showed that automation part and they're like, oh, the robot is like doing the burger and the toast and the buns, and then it's going down the assembly line and the perfect mustard, the splat of this, the fries served up, everything's done. Even they're commenting like, oh, that's a really juicy piece of lettuce, and that's a nicely placed tomato. Oh, just the right amount of like sauce.
Man, that was bullshit. It was just as a chef, I got to call it out. It's just like a straight line in the middle.
Well,
so
exactly.
if you turn the burger the other way and bite, you got no sauce.
Yeah. Have you ever seen
Boo that robot?
Have you seen the movie The Founder about Ray Kroc?
No. Oh wait, have I? I think I've seen bits and pieces of it, but no, I haven't seen.
Michael Keaton plays the
Michael
founder,
Keaton
plays the guy that steals it.
Yep.
Is it good?
It's fantastic, and it actually is a really it actually goes into why McDonald's that location was so revolutionary when the original founders actually created it, because they wanted
spot stepping and
the spot. You're at your location, you put exactly like 3 pickles in this thing. We have the piping bag for like the mayo and all that crap. So everything is uniform. You're getting the same experience at this location every single time. And then of course, Ray Kroc, took all that and he's like, and just replicated it so that no matter what McDonald's you go to, you get the same experience, the same shake, the same thing wherever you are. And so so when they're going through that part, I was like, okay, so what is actually bad about this?
That's exactly right. Like I can be chefy about the fact that the sauce wasn't put on properly.
Yeah.
But when it comes to automation, like I get the strike. The AI strike it makes a lot of sense when you have like a nuanced art-based job. Like you shouldn't have robots take that away from humans. But like this unskilled labor, it's like, do we really just need to have 16-year-olds like going and working our burger joints instead of getting like an education or whatever? Like just off the top of my head, I'm not being like, some like idealist or like bleeding heart anything by saying like, who the fuck cares? Like what does it matter? Like nobody has ever worked a burger job that was like, man, I really needed that, except for Ed. Like that's like he's the only one that was like, I need this for the rest of my life. And that's like part of what makes him absurd. Like when we watch that movie, we're not like, oh, this middle-aged almost 50-year-old guy is still working in a burger restaurant. He's a hero. He's somebody that I idolize. We're like, oh, he's so quirky and weird and different,
Yeah,
So like,
because like I'm trying to figure out, because that's where I'm struggling. Like as a young child watching the original Good Burger, yes, it's funny all those things are happening because my friends and I would do the same thing. But then you jump to the future, and it's and we're all nostalgic for the original one, and then you have this one, and Ed is still plunging the shake machine with the plunger from the toilet and digging his hand into people's things and throwing things at people, getting their orders completely wrong, which by the way, Lori Beth Denberg, thank goodness she was in there, because
Connie Muldoon.
Yes, she nailed that bit. I was like, the second she started speaking, I was like, oh my god, I remember all that. Core memories are being unlocked. Has she been anything recently? Because I need to watch it.
Josh Seaver coming back as Fizz as well, like that one.
Yeah,
I did like that too, where he's like been frozen for 20 some years.
Who's that old dude?
Oh, it's me.
Exactly. But that was that is where I'm like wondering, like they didn't lean hard enough into the jokes or the message if there was supposed to be one, and if there's not supposed to be one, and I'm way overthinking things, then My
Well, again, if you
bad.
went over thinking Good Burger, go back and listen to UnChefed featuring Josh from Talking Smack.
We got way deeper than anybody needed to get on that movie the first time, and it was actually people loved it. Like we had like almost 500 listens, I want to say, to that episode.
Dang.
Jeez, man, I don't get 500 listens a month. That's not true. I get about that, but for one episode, dang.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't have a problem with anybody taking away like burger jobs because like I don't see it as being like a necessary, like it doesn't build anything really in people that's valuable, you know. Like I'm a chef who has hired people to work in food, and like I've taken people who have worked in burger restaurants and they usually suck because they hate everything about everything that they do. Like there's no passion, it's all dead, it's all like the fact that it's able to so easily be done by a robot. Like I'm actually invested in this company called Miso, and like they are moving into White Castles and they're like doing flippy burger machines and like fry basket machines. I think it's great. Like I think it's fucking great, you know.
But will it still give me the diarrhea?
Hopefully, you know, like they're not doing their job if it doesn't.
How many times have you guys done the White Castle challenge?
What is the White Castle
never.
challenge?
Never.
Oh man, the White Castle challenge is
I
where
eat
you
good
get like
food,
one
Josh. I'm a chef.
It's where you order like one of the value meals that has like 8 sliders in it, plus some fries and a drink, and then you see how long you're on a road trip, and you see who the first person is that has to stop to use the bathroom. They lose.
How many times have you done the White Challenge?
I've done about a handful of times.
So like
not in the
more
last
than
like 15 or 20 years.
Where have you placed?
I did lose once, and then I think I've never won, but I've always hit like middle of the pack at the very least. Like I'm proud of the fact that I've only lost once.
Okay, Brandon, you invest in the company that makes the flippy machines?
Yeah,
I love the flippy machine.
Oh yeah.
No, there's a Twitch streamer that called Asmongold who looked at like some video about the flippy machine, and then he was just praising. He's like, you know what Flippy doesn't do? Flippy doesn't ask for a 15-minute break. You know what Flippy doesn't do? Flippy doesn't say I need to take a phone call for my wife. Flippy doesn't ask for holidays off. Flippy does his damn job. So every once in a while, my friend
Flippy doesn't take a smoke break and come back smelling like cigarettes and making our food stink.
Yeah,
I've spent a lot of time thinking about that exact quote because I think that asking for a 15-minute break and asking to talk to your wife is completely reasonable. And that kind of gets me back to why is AI so bad? Because I've been a manager in those positions too. And it's legitimately hard because like you are not like the authority. You've got numbers that you need to hit. You've got to employ these people. It becomes the case where you can't do your job unless you're telling people they can't take a 15-minute break or they can't do like blah, blah, blah. Like it's a problem. And like if fixing that problem looks like putting a robot there, you know, where it's like this job is actually inhumane. There's no way to do it without thinking about things that way. There's no way for you to do this job successfully without being like, you can't take a call from your wife right now. You can't take a 15-minute break right now. It's rush. You can't go to the bathroom. Like part of the reason that I'm not a chef anymore, part of the reason I started doing UnChefed was because I found myself in a position where I was like, I had to tell people like, you got to go to the bathroom before the rush. We're going to be like 2 hours. And there's just like, we can't stop everything for you to go to the bathroom. And I was like, that's not the kind of person that I want to be, but that's what it takes to survive as a chef in New York City, working in restaurants. Like it really comes down to like that level of like managing of people. And if that's the case, especially with like fast food restaurants where you're not even learning a skill, like, you know, with the high level restaurants I was at, people would learn skills. They would go on, they become chefs, they would make more money. They would do something that was like creatively fulfilling, etc. But at a place like fucking White Castle or Good Burger, like where like what are you gonna do? Like you're gonna move in like from White Castle into like something really highly skilled is never the case. And everything that you do from that point forward is going to be more important on your like journey to doing something more skilled. So if we're just removing this job that's like dehumanizing and putting robots into it, then fuck it. Who fucking cares? You know? Like so that's my take.
No.
I remember when I worked at McDonald's, like you're just bringing back high school memories for me right now, talking about all these dehumanizing things. We had a woman who she should have been retired, but because society being the way it is, she had to work a job. And there was some shit-faced, for lack of a better word, peer of mine who went to the same school as I did. he was really excited that he got a switchblade one day, decided to bring it to work and pulled it out on her as like a joke.
Ooh, no good.
And I called him out on it and told our supervisor, and then he tried to beat me up in the parking lot the next day. And I just called him. I'm like, go have a fucking smoke break, you, because like he took 15 smoke breaks in a 5-hour shift.
Yeah.
And I called him out on that too. I bitched to my supervisor because why is he getting 3-hour breaks on like a total of 3 hours on a break for going to smoke because he's addicted to cigarettes and whatever else he's doing out there. And I have to work my full shift. How is that fair?
Yeah. And like oftentimes like you have these people who are not like, you know, like management takes a lot. Like it takes a lot of understanding. It takes a lot of people skills, you know, and like we're so far in the weeds right now. And I'm sorry that I always do this to you, Josh, but
No, it's fine. What else are we going to talk about with this movie?
Yeah, maybe this is like way more. This is what happened with the Good Burger, like the original Good Burger movie was like, we just found ourselves in like this interesting conversation about like, what is this movie actually saying? Like if it's saying anything at all, like oftentimes you're like this movie
People
is so,
like Keenan. That's what it's saying.
yeah, people like Keenan. That's what this movie is saying. And like ultimately, like I've seen a lot of people, and this is what's interesting to me is like on the other end, like when you look at like people who are trying to find something more from this movie, they're trying to make something of the automation. They're trying to make something of the AI, which probably has a lot to do with the times, the fact that we just had like a big strike with both the writers and the actors afterwards. I've got a friend who's an actor. Like it was very hard. This was a huge conversation. Like he was not getting work. It was a terrible time. He was going so far as to say this felt like COVID again, like this strike. So just terrible all around. So it's very present. And then you see like this movie where like the AI goes wrong, but it's funny because like the AI going wrong is like what helped the heroes to win, you know, but the AI was so stupid. Like why would you spend time to make the robot look like somebody who is empirically the worst restaurant person that you've like literally this guy is plunging your shake machine with the plunger from the toilet. And it's funny to be like, oh, there's duty on that. But when you stop to think about it, that's like the grossest shit that I've ever heard, you know? And
No
then you're
pun
gonna
intended.
like, yeah. and then you're gonna like replicate this guy and send him to Tokyo and send him to Barcelona and send him to like all of the biggest cities in the world as the ambassador of food culture. And you're like $1 billion business. Like, I don't know. It's
and I think that's where they missed the opportunity to do something because like Good Burger was the brand that they needed to like take over for some reason. Like
it was really just the sauce.
That was the first movie, but in this one, it's a revenge story from Kurt's sister who wants to just take Good Burger and drive it to the ground. I think what they needed to do just to add a little more, they wanted to add a little, if they wanted to add a little bit more gravitas to everything, they needed to make Good Burger like one of those restaurants where people like insult you. Like, oh, hey, Tubby, want another third burger? Like, weren't you here just last night? Like one of those things. But Ed is the attraction to Good Burger, not just the sauce, but like Ed, because this guy is so weird and crazy and like make him Insta famous and like make Good Burger a destination restaurant that people go to just to experience Ed.
Oh, that's
and that way better. it justifies why you have an Ed robot. And like it justifies why you need this contract because you could just make a better burger kind of place. Like there's nothing really in the movie that's like Good Burger is the name of the thing we need and want. There's nothing that really justifies any of that. So I think that a little tweak that they could do, borrowing a bit from our friends over at I Have Some Notes, they could have made Ed the attraction and that Ed's signing away his likeness as well as signing away Good Burger. And that way they take everything that's unique about Ed. But I think that's something that would justify why they needed the Ed robot and not just, it's funny because it's a robot Ed and he's efficient.
That's a great take though. That would have been like such a fun thing for them to do. And what would have been really interesting is if like then his son like had to be something different because Ed signed his likeness away and his son was too much like him.
Oh my God, that would have been hysterical.
That would have been, and he's like, I have to learn how to be a person. And it's like trying to put grapes up his nose and his dad's like,
yeah, you can do a whole bunch of callbacks that everyone that has seen the movie understands. And then you're just like, no, we can't do that.
like a Spider-Man losing his powers kind of like movie.
Yeah.
But that would be
Yeah.
awesome. That would be so cool. Like there's so many fun different things you could have done with. I don't know.
But
I
they
mean-
just went the most generic possible route with this, and like I was joking about earlier with Matt, quote unquote, ditching us. Like I almost feel bad asking you to come on and watch this movie, because like it's a pleasure just getting to talk to you, and like we're going down some interesting avenues here. But as far as a movie, like to get into the Talking Smack ratings here, this is a pass for me. I wouldn't recommend anyone watching this. I would say go watch Good Burger and pretend this thing never happened.
Yeah. Do I say pass too? Like, is it a?
If you want to, yeah, you whatever your rating may be, go ahead.
I'm also giving this a pass. That felt good. That felt right.
I am going to say that I am giving Jillian Bell a must watch for a thankless role. One of so many she's had. This poor thing having to be in Murder Mystery 2 earlier this year, being in Bill and Ted Face the Music, a good movie as their poor therapist for Bill and Ted and the wives. But dang, this movie was disappointing. It's a pass.
People have good turns in this movie, like Camilla Fairburn, who plays Mia, Keenan's niece. I think she did a really good job with what she had, but she has also had like a really bad run of luck. She was in the Netflix Blockbuster show, and she's young still. She's got time to go, but like, I mean, at least she's got an in with Keenan now, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keenan's the guy to know all of a sudden.
Oh, she did a great job. Like, I wouldn't say that any of the acting was bad. I wouldn't say that any of the production was bad. I wouldn't say like there weren't a lot of glaring errors. It was just like a generic nothing story with like stupid again, like that. If you, the biggest and best way that I can think of to sum up what this show or what this movie was just that fart scene with Kel, where it's like, why did you think that there needed to be like, you know, a 5-second like nasty fart scene where like Kel's face or Keenan's face is next to his butt? Like,
because it's ideally a kids movie, and you can't do a kids movie anymore without there being a fart.
And you can't do a movie period without like going through every line and being like, okay, do we need this? Do we like, are we? And at some point there had to be like several people in a room that were like, no, we got to leave the fart in. Like, it's just like, that's very important. And that's just like, that's the decision making that went into the storytelling for this. We've had a couple of talks about a couple of like, you know, different options that we could have done that you and I have both brought up. They would have been like so interesting. There were different ways they could have gone, but what they did was the fart. That's what they did.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, you know, there were some producers in the room, and they're sitting there and they're going, listen, my son laughed at the fart. If you take out the fart, I'm calling Zoe Saldana, and she's not doing this movie. You're leaving the fart in.
The other producer was like, we got the fart in.
Congratulations! Congratulations! Congratulations!
Congratulations.
Congratulations!
Oh,
Congratulations!
Yep.
Congratulations.
Just kind of keeps going, huh?
Gronk, you got paid.
That's the joke.
Mark Cuban, you got paid.
Speaking of Mark Cuban, he's the Sinbad of this movie, isn't he? Like, he's the guy who doesn't necessarily do anything wrong, and then something happens to him at the end of the movie where it's like, did he deserve that? And like,
Did something
the
happen to
problem
him at the
is,
end? Did I cut out?
remember,
Yeah.
he gives Keenan $10 million for
That happened
nothing.
at the beginning.
Well, he wants Keenan to give him back his money, and then Keenan and or Dexter and Ed 2 make Endless Ice or whatever,
Permanent
and
ice.
Dexter's like, hey, how about you get 0% of this and you give me $10 million? And he's like, deal.
Yeah.
But like, he's a billionaire, so fuck him anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. But you're right. That's like exactly calling out just how similar the structure is. It's like he's very much the Sinbad character. That's the whole reason that Dexter went to Good Burger in the first place in the first movie, was because he had to pay off Sinbad. And now he's going to Good Burger this time around because he had to, I guess, pay off Mark Cuban or whatever. I will say I did enjoy like Ed thinking about the other jobs he could do. And then Keenan was like, man, I can't see you doing any of that. Like that was kind of good. I can't remember what it was that he did, but because like I don't know, enjoyment for this movie was like such a low bar after a little bit. And it's like, okay, this was a 4 and a sea of 2s, you know.
Alex didn't understand that one, or he's just really wanting to look like Walter from the Jeff Dunham.
I was like, wouldn't this be more like a 4 in a sea of 7s or something like that?
No, like the joke was like a 4 out of 10. Like
okay.
Whereas like the rest of the movie, like you just got a lot of 2 out of 10 jokes floating around.
Yeah.
Like the fart would be like a 2 out of 10 joke, and you know. I mean, I will say like comedy wasn't the thing that I was really. Again, it's hard to say that this was like a bad movie per se. It just was the production was good. Like if you look at it as a comedy, it failed. But if you're like, okay, well, they got from point A to point B, and then they got from point B to point C, and the production and the acting were fine, you know, like that's all true. Again, like an Adam Sandler movie. Like you watch an Adam Sandler movie and you're like, wow, that thing really did what it did, you know. And Good Burger 2 really did what it did.
Exactly.
But I think that's a failing for the movie, though, because if you want to make a movie, you want it to be memorable, even if it's in a bad way. You want people to talk about it, and like, yeah, we're talking about it now, but this is going to be an episode that no one's going to come back to.
I'm wondering if like the way that they set up Ed's house with like all the burger paraphernalia, they're gonna have like maybe some kid out there that's like, I want that burger bed with like the ketchup pillow and the pickle pillow, and like I want French fry eyebrows or French fry windshield blades. I don't know who would want that stuff, you know, but there was like a certain amount of like absurdity that was like curated in a way that's like if you wanted to seek it out, you might be able to find it. Like I don't know. I'm grasping at straws here.
I'm
pulling ice out of people's...
This movie failed for me in so many ways, and I think the main one is that it's not even quotable. Any quote from this movie is just a rehash from the first one. There's not even a moment where the first thing that we see Ed do after his dream sequence in the first movie, in the original Good Burger, when Ed wakes up after his weird dream, he's like, a clock. He does that every morning. That's what he does. He forgets that there's a clock in his room, and there's not even a moment like that. They just play it so safe, where they're just like, we're gonna have Ed say all the classic things. Like Ed doesn't even have the same heart, in my opinion, because Dexter makes him lose the thing that he loves most in Good Burger. Mm-hmm. And he's just like, oh man, I don't know. I can't talk to you right now. Like, that's it. Like, and then 2 seconds later, he's like, I'm on board. Let's go. Mm-hmm. There's not that moment where Ed does the like, oh, you're my best friend. We're in this together, even though you think I'm just this big dumb idiot. Like I am a person. There's nothing like that.
You're plumbing the depths at this point. The movie was a very big showing of cowardice. It did everything that it thought was successful about the first one, and in its moment to like continue being what it was originally, it failed at that as well. You know, like it was just like this whole movie was an act of, like, this is very strong wording, I'm realizing that, but like this movie was an act of cowardice, I think, ultimately. Like it
was a cash grab, which I mean that's most of what any of those are.
Again, like I think that if there's anything that's good that came out of this movie, it's happening behind the scenes. It didn't happen on the screen.
And like maybe that's the thing we need. Maybe we need a making of Good Burger documentary where we just see a bunch of behind the scenes stuff.
That would have been way better. Like, you know, Jodorowsky's Dune kind of situation. Like, instead of like Jodorowsky's Good Burger would be like the fucking shit. Like, just get down. Like, it should have been like the making of Good Burger and seeing them be friends, and then ultimately never even release the movie. Like that's the third good idea that we've came up with that would have been better.
Because you can see we've already talked about, like, the movie feels like everyone's having fun while on set. It just, the finished product just isn't good. But when they're doing the remix of I'm a Dude, they have like the cast and crew singing along with it, and they're having fun. Like, I don't think that's something that you can really just recreate. I don't think that those are moments
It
where
seemed genuine.
It did not feel like, oh, hey, let's get the camera here. We're going to do this. And we're just going to sing this portion of the song. It felt like they played a good chunk of it and they were just having fun. And I think that would have made the movie much more enjoyable instead of, here's a cameo and we're going to supplant having good jokes and good moments with, hey, did you see this person was in Good Burger?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And to circle back, I think that proves the point that Brendan made, which is that Keenan knows how to organize a party and wants to be Adam Sandler. I'm on SNL. I got a lot of connections. I got a lot of phone numbers. I can keep any fart joke in that you want. Just come down to my movie,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll be on Paramount Plus.
What
Not a
are you
sponsor,
doing
but could be.
anyway? Come make $1 million. Come make $1 million. Like, how do you do an Adam Sandler? We should close out with like Adam Sandler impressions. Come on,
Shabadoo.
I don't know if that
All
was
right,
good.
with the Adam Sandler impressions, I think we'll call it a night. Brendan, thanks so much for being here and talking almost a full hour of Good Burger with us. It's always a pleasure to have you on. You, if there's ever anything pop culture you want to talk about, you just let me know and we'll make room for you on the episode.
I'm just talking with friends, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's all content, man.
It's all content. I'm a dude.
All
You're
right,
a dude.
Alex,
She's
you
a
wanna-
dude. You know. That's all.
Yeah, we're all dudes.
We're all dudes.
Exactly. Flippy's a dude.
Bubby's a
We're all
dude.
dudes.
Yeah.
Alex, you want to plug the Discord?
Heck yeah. Come to our Discord. You know how to find us. It's the Talking Smack Pod Discord. And you can hang out with us. We can talk movies, animation, comics, and more, superheroes. And you can find us having asinine arguments that include text walls occasionally. And if you tag me, I show up randomly for about 5 seconds to yell at you and then leave. It's a good time.
Yeah, and please come tell me how a Cubone wears the skull of its mother, because I have some questions. You can find that in one of our Discord discussions. You can email us your thoughts, question, reviews, and keep an ear out on your social medias, because we have a Talking Smackdowns coming up. So we need your suggestions so we can talk about them. You can email those suggestions at tsmackpod@gmail.com. You can also send it to us via social media on Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, Hive Social, Post News, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Lonnie's website. You can email us tsmackpod@gmail.com. Thank you to Leo Allen for the musical themes that we're hearing right now. Alex, who did the remix?
Don Davis, because you know what? It's time for me to start watching The Matrix again, and Don Davis did all the music.
Thank you to Beppo for our original avatars, Retro Ale Studios for our Ricky avatar. Please like, subscribe, rate, review the podcast on your podcatcher of choice. And most importantly, thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And again, Brendan, thanks so much for showing up. And what should everyone be watching this week?
Star Trek.
Me?
Yeah, say
Watch Scavenger's Reign.
Doctor Who started this week, I suppose.
I already watched
Yes.
it. It was fantastic. Go watch that. It was great.
Oh shit! I didn't even know that. I'm
Yes,
way.
it dro-
I'm not.
it's on Disney
like I'm
Plus.
not as cool. Oh, that's good. I do love Doctor Who.
David Tennant's back. It's so good.
Look, I'm Great Nose Boy. Bloobity, 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 stop it. Bloobity, bloobity, would you stop? Bloobity, 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 that ain't funny. Bloobity, bloobity, bloobity. All right, Deja laugh.